Greetings and salutations, YouTubers. This is Zillafan85 here, and I'm coming at you today with what I consider a pretty special video. This is one I was definitely, definitely excited about because I want to go ahead and do my own little celebration to wish a happy 20th anniversary to Spyro the Dragon. Yes, indeedy, Spyro. Spyro himself, he's one of my favorite video game characters overall, and the original Spyro the Dragon game for the PS1 is one of my favorite games overall. It's actually, honestly, for me, it's a top 3 of my, favorite video game of all time. It only falls behind Super Mario Brothers 3 and Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles. So, obviously, you can tell it's right up there. And again, Spyro, would also be considered, Spyro himself would be considered one of my top 3 favorite video game characters of all time. So, I definitely, like I said, I wanted to go ahead and make this video just to sort of celebrate his 20th anniversary coming out. I'm not going to get into too much, go into too much depth about the original Spyro game, in and of itself. Just kind of, talk about a few things here, and obviously just pay tribute since I do love the game so much. So again, the game was originally released in 1998, and it was actually released in September of 1998. So another reason why I wanted to go ahead and get this video out now, being that that we're actually, currently still in the month of September, so I thought this would actually be a pretty cool thing to do. And there's a couple other things that are kind of going along with this 20th anniversary as well, which I'll mention in just a bit. So Spyro was one of my, if not the first, introduction to the Sony PlayStation from the PS1 era. Up until this point, I only, I had my NES and my Sega Genesis, but I didn't have any other system, any other consoles aside from that. And then, I wasn't early in the game. I was a little late in the game, but I finally did. It was a holiday gift. At the end of actually 1998, believe it or not, when I did get a PS1 finally, and this was one of the first games I would at least say that I got for it. And upon playing it for the first time, I just absolutely fell in love from the beginning, and of course the upgrade in graphics from the PS1 over the earlier systems. It's definitely a huge difference, and something I also really loved, and I just had so much fun playing this game. So basically, the story of the game goes that the dragons, they had lived in the dragon realm, which consisted of a multitude of worlds, and basically what happened was the main villain of the game, Nasty Nork, obviously this sort of devious creature that he was basically banished to what was considered the outer world of the dragon realm, which later became known as Nasty's world. And so because of that, Nasty obviously resented the dragons, and then upon because he had the use of magic ability, so able to kind of keep track and monitor what was going on in the rest of the dragon worlds, and all the dragons mocking him and this and that when asked anything about him. It basically, that and being banished, it got to be enough for him, basically, so he wanted to exact his revenge against the dragons, and of course take over the entire dragon realm at the same time. So what he did was he cast a spell to go ahead and capture all the dragons, turning them into stone, and then he also gathered up all the treasure scattered throughout the dragon realms, using some of it. He collected it all and used some of it to turn into his henchmen to do his bidding. So he had Norks that he created amongst other creatures. And they were basically running rampant throughout the dragon realm, and all chaos had broken loose, essentially. However, though, he missed one aspect, and that, of course, was none other than the young dragon Spyro. And he was the only one who was actually not turned into statue for reasons I not 100% sure why, but I guess we wouldn't have a game if he was turned into statue. So he was the only one that escaped it. They kind of explained it that I guess he was playing hooky or something like that. So he didn't get captured. However, though, him being the only dragon free and needing to save the dragon realm, basically he had to set out on an adventure to stop Nasty Nork. So essentially, what the overall mission would be that he had to free all the dragons, which he would do by stepping on their stone platforms, with the statues that they were encased in, and that would release the spell and free them. So he had to do that, free all the dragons, and he had to collect all the treasure, which again was stolen by Nasty Nork, and then also Nasty had let these thieves into the dragon realm who he had sent to kidnap or to steal essentially a multitude of dragon eggs that were scattered throughout some of the worlds. So basically, a sort of trifecta of missions that Spyro had to undertake here. So he had to make his way through all the worlds, fighting Nasty's henchmen, and obviously would eventually have to confront Nasty himself. So there was a total of 6 worlds in the game, going in order. You would start from the Artisan home, which I believe would be Spyro's actual home world himself as well. So you had the Artisan world, then you had the Peacekeepers world, then the Magic Crafters world, then the Beastmakers world, then the Dreamweavers world. Yeah, I gotta figure that's alluding to the song. Anyway, and then the final world, which of course was Nasty's world. So all the worlds have their own unique aspects to them. The dragons that reside in each of the worlds have their own traits, and they sort of go along with whatever world they're living in. The types of dragons that you'll find in each world. And all the level designs and everything, I just thought were absolutely awesome. I think this was a game that was, especially at the time, was ahead of its time. And it was just so amazing. I was blown away from the first moment that I played it, and have played it obviously throughout the years, still to this day. And again, one of those games that I always will play it through. I don't know if it's hard to choose because I do like all the dragon worlds. If I did have to pick one in particular that I like the best, it would probably be the Magic Crafters world, especially because the dragons there with their use of magic, and then of course the henchmen that you have to face in that world. A lot of them can use magic and things like that as well, which is pretty cool. And I really love the the designs of all the levels and everything in that world in particular. And plus, that world was also where we were first introduced to the supercharge, which are these special ramps that you'll find at points in the game. And if you run along them, Spyro can run really fast into supercharge mode, and he can destroy a lot of what would otherwise be considered unbreakable objects and things like that. So things like that kind of add to having the whole power up scenario go on. And speaking of power as well, that's also where when you keep track of Spyro with playing through the game, he's got basically his sidekick, a dragonfly called Sparks. So he's sort of, like I said, his sidekick, his partner in crime here, if you will. However, Sparks is actually very important though too. Not only does he help Spyro because he will pick up nearby treasure that's scattered about and help you with that as well, but he's also essentially your life meter, so he's directly tied to Spyro. So basically that Sparks indicates your HP, if you will. He's got several different colors which they do explain in the game as you start playing it through. What to look for with Sparks. Essentially, he starts out in this yellow/gold color, if you will. That's his strongest. So that's when you're basically at full health at that point. Then if you take a hit, Sparks will change color to blue. And then if you take a hit from there, Sparks will change color to green. And then if you take a hit from there, Sparks disappears altogether, but you are still able to play at this point. However, if you take a hit at that point, that's when you lose a life. So essentially, all in all, you've got 4 hits, on your life meter, if you will, your HP, before you would lose a life, and you can replenish your health as well. Each of the home worlds, because the worlds consist of a home world, which I mentioned all the home worlds, what they are, and then they have a few stages that you can enter through portals from each home world, and you've like regular stages, and then you've got a flight stage, which I'll mention in just a moment, and then of course you've got the boss stage. So that's basically out of the game, and the other Spyro games that kind of mainly follow that pattern, I would say. So apart from that, though, going back to what I was saying, so in each of these stages and homeworlds, you'll find like these sort of animals, whether they're livestock or other types of animals, roaming around through these stages and homeworlds. Essentially, I know it sounds a little messed up, but what you have to do is because Spyro's main abilities that he has, he can flame, he can charge, and of course he can glide and stuff like that. But anyways, though, so when you attack an enemy, either by flaming or charging them, that's how you inflict damage, whatever. And if you do that to one of these animals, they'll release usually these butterflies, and that's what you can use, because Sparks eats those and regains his health meter from there. So he'll change colors back to the next level up, if you will. So that's how you regain your health. So if Sparks is gone altogether, so you're on that last hit basically, and you you attack one of those animals, then Sparks will just automatically reappear. So that's how that goes, and obviously he'll be green, and if you get him a butterfly, he'll go back to blue, and then of course from there, getting another butterfly would turn him back to yellow, /gold. So that's how you keep track of your health meter, your HP, and like I said, you can replenish it throughout the game. So at least there is that. If there wasn't, and you only had the 4 hits, before you would lose a life, it would definitely upgrade the difficulty, but I think that would be a little too ridiculous, especially this game, obviously was more of a family-oriented game, of course, where children can play it and this and that, so you don't want to make it too cray-cray, if you will. But nonetheless, though, it is still very challenging. Areas that you have to reach in the game can sometimes be very difficult to get to, especially ones that you need to do a sort of long glide, and to do a glide you would jump and then jump again to start gliding through the air, and you can also drop down in mid-flight as well, if you want to. So with all those aspects, it definitely adds up, and like I said, it is a very challenging game. Like I said, each of the worlds have their own unique aspects to them. I would definitely say the difficulty does increase as you proceed through the worlds to get to the end. But overall, like I said, it's just an amazing experience, and I love playing through it. The flight stages are really cool. One thing I've got to admit is, well, the home worlds and the regular stages, because there's no time limit, so you can kind of explore around and do as much free roam, whatever as you want, if you so choose to do so. The only stages that are actually timed are the flight stages, which are basically considered Spyro, supposed to be learning to fly, but there's these sort of cool stages. You got to take down these obstacles. You can do it basically in any order that you can, but you got to try to do it before the time limit runs out, and then you complete the flight stage. And if it's your first time completing, any flight stage in particular, is when you get treasure for doing that. And then, of course, after completing it that first time, you're allowed to re-enter it as many times as you want. And at that point, you can take as long as you want, but basically, if you want to try to go for a time record, you can try to beat your previous best record at that point. So that's really cool. I love those flight stages. Anytime we get to fly is awesome. So if I had any particular superpower, it would probably be to fly, to be honest with you. So I definitely love those. And of course, like I said, the boss stages, which are similar looking to a regular stage, but obviously more difficult. You have very few chances, if at all, to actually recover any health in those stages. So those are sort of an upgrade in difficulty as far as that goes. And the enemies there are usually tougher. And then, of course, you've got the boss of the world, whichever boss that Nasty has put in charge of the particular world that you're in needs to be confronted in that stage. So, and then of course, completing certain tasks. You don't necessarily have to complete, the boss world in order to proceed to different worlds, but you have to complete certain tasks like free a certain amount of dragons, or attain a certain amount of treasure, or even collect a certain amount of dragon eggs, because you'll have a balloonist at the end of each world that will allow you to go to the next world only if you've completed certain tasks, like I said. So, and that's how you proceed through the game. But obviously, to fully beat it, to fully get that 100%, you've got to complete everything in the game. Get all the dragons, get all the treasure, and collect all the dragon eggs. So, and then of course is spoilers here. I should say there's a cool little bonus stage at the end as well, which is really awesome to play through. So that basically is the crux of the game. Like I said, I can go on and on about Spyro all day. I just love it so much, and I love Spyro so much. So the game, of course, was developed by Insomniac and then produced by Sony Computer Entertainment of America. So when you see them attached to the Spyro game, that's when you know you're in good hands. So kind of going along with that, I just wanted to basically mention this. And that, of course, are the sequels to Spyro the Dragon, which completed what we know as the original PS1 trilogy. And like I said, going along with that, the trilogy of the PS1 Spyro games were all developed by Insomniac and produced by Sony Computer Entertainment of America. And like I said, that's when you know that you're in good hands with the Spyro games, because I think after that point, once they started making Spyro for the PS2, and then of course it became a multi-platform type game from there. The Spyro games, starting with Spyro Enter the Dragonfly, which I've played through in its entirety. The games, though, themselves are just not I don't think so anyways, anywhere near as good. Like I said, obviously, again, this is just my own personal opinion. These are just my sentiments towards the games, but the original trilogy are the ones that I truly love with the Spyro games, and those are the ones that I mainly play. So after the original Spyro game, then next, a year later in 1999, you had Spyro 2, Ripto's Rage. And of course, as the subtitle suggests, Ripto was the main villain of that game. Spyro is brought to the realm of Avalar through basically the use of technology, because Ripto had taken over and was causing chaos in the realm of Avalar. So you had to, the inhabitants there asked Spyro for his help, and of course he agreed. So you get to play through the worlds of Avalar, making your way through, defeating Ripto's henchmen, and of course his two sort of pets or sidekicks, if you will, which are the bosses of couple of the worlds, Gulp and Crush, or I should say Crush and Gulp, in that order, actually. So, because the first world that you're in is what was I going to say? I'm sorry. First world that you're in summer spring. I'm sorry, and then of course you're in autumn. Autumn plains, and then of course winter tundra. Sorry, I was having a memory lapse there. I'm sorry about that. So, but I just wanted to kind of mention that, though. So, or not. I'm not summer spring, summer forest. I'm sorry about that. But that's the first world of the game. Then, like I said, the second world is Autumn Plain, and then, of course, the third world is Winter Tundra. So there's 3 home worlds in that game. But the stage playthroughs and all that honestly do take longer than the original game. You'll notice which this kind of really set the pattern for the Spyro games, the trend for them at this point, even though you still have that sort of basic layout as from the first game. But you'll notice in this game, when you enter various stages, though, you'll have inhabitants of the stages that have they're obviously under threat by the henchmen. You mainly from the main villain, and you have to go and try and assist them and help them out. And there's also side missions that you can complete as well with playing through these stages and whatnot. So they took what the first game did and sort of expanded on it. But still still keeping, at least in tradition, what you did with the first game, but then, like I said, expanding on it, though, with some of those new features. I definitely love the second Spyro game as well. It's also a top 10 favorite video game of mine. I just don't like it personally as much as the original. Other people would beg to differ that the original would not be their favorite, but for me, the original is. However, the second Spyro game is not too far behind. I really do love that one. It's easily the next favorite in the series for me, and again, a top 10 favorite video game overall, and I really do love the second Spyro game. Now, the third Spyro game, which was Spyro Year of the Dragon, which was released in the year 2000, that one I really like a lot, but that for me is when they start to dip down as far as how much I actually like it, because I definitely don't like it as much as the first 2 Spyro games. So with that, I do like it, though, and they do have other playable characters in the third game, and essentially with that one, the Dragons were celebrating the Year of the Dragon Festival, which was a slew of new eggs that were brought to the Dragon Worlds, and of course they had a festival, but then this evil sorceress of sorts that sort of dwelled within the sort of forgotten worlds of the Dragon Realm. So these sort of additional worlds, starting with sorry about that, folks. I had to pause for a minute here to go attend to something. Anyway, so as I was saying, so with the third game again, so the sorceress, which basically ruled over these sort of forgotten worlds of the Dragon Kingdom, she again resented the dragons and wanted to basically exact revenge on them once again. So she kidnapped or sent her henchmen anyway to kidnap all the dragon eggs, and then of course Spyro again sent in to rescue all the dragon eggs, etc., etc. So again, a pretty similar pattern to the previous games again, but like I said, now you do have other characters that are playable. The ones that are visible on there: Sergeant Bird, Sheila the Kangaroo, Bentley the Eddie, and of course Agent 9, the monkey. And they all have their own unique abilities. Only certain points that you can access them to play through, but they are fun to play through. Then one of one of the characters who became a recurring character. One of his best friends, Hunter the cheetah, becomes a side playable character as well at points in the game, and even now you can at certain point play as Sparks for these side missions to complete. So they really did expand a lot on that, and that's definitely an aspect of it I like. Just not as big of a fan of it as the first two games, but I do like it though, and it's got some cool, some cool world: sunrise, spring, midday garden, evening lake, and midnight mountain, which are really, really cool looking worlds as well. The midday garden world, I love the home world theme. That would be my favorite theme in the game. And that's another thing, that the music in the Spyro games is always really, really cool. Some of them are sort of these very angelic sounding themes, others just these almost sort of funky-ish type beats and stuff, but and just have these really cool sounds about them. So I always enjoyed the music in the Spyro games. And like I said, so for Year of the Dragon, I definitely like it. Again, it's part of the original trilogy. Just I'm a bigger fan of the first two games, though, I would say. But nonetheless, though, the original trilogy is awesome, and so again, a big reason I was really excited to do this. And with that too, I wanted to lead into this and go ahead and mention this. And that, of course, is the Spyro Reignited Trilogy, which is a game, I believe it's still in development. Well, I mean, it's going to be released this year. I believe it's supposed to be released in November. It's going to be on the PS4 and the Xbox One, if I remember correctly here. And basically, this is an awesome nod. It's obviously honoring the 20th anniversary of Spyro, and it's, as it sounds, it's a reignited trilogy. So they're remastering the original trilogy of the PS1 Spyro games for this reignited trilogy. So the level design, layout, and this and that, everything is going to be the same. It's just going to be the graphics are going to be upgraded to be that of what you would come to expect for the PS4 or Xbox One. So that's a really awesome concept. Unfortunately, I don't own either of those consoles, so if I ever got a hold of a PS4, I would definitely get this, because that it sounds awesome, and I've seen the trailers and pictures and whatnot, and it looks absolutely amazing. So I definitely give them a nod there. I know it's being produced by Activision, and again, it's really, really cool to honor Spyro's 20th anniversary that they're doing this. And it was basically because of this, with them celebrating the 20th anniversary, that really, really sparked me to make this video. So. And obviously do my own ode and honor Spyro's 20th anniversary myself. Again, Spyro the Dragon, the original especially, really, really love that game, and I can never get enough of it, and always will play it constantly. But basically, with that, this really does bring us to the end of the video, folks. Again, like I said, I just wanted to go ahead and honor Spyro the Dragon for the 20th anniversary. Again, Spyro the Dragon, the original, one of my favorite video games of all time. And the original trilogy of the Spyro games are all awesome games. Like I said, the first two for sure in my top 10. And definitely can never get enough of the PS1 Spyro games. So, and the fact that they're making that reignited trilogy is really, really awesome awesome thing that they're doing. So hopefully I'll get a chance to play that at some point. But if you are still watching, folks, again, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. If you would like to subscribe, please feel free to do so. If you would like to like and or comment on any of my videos, please feel free to do so as well. Of course, with this one, share your thoughts on Spyro the Dragon, as well as Spyro himself, and what you think of the original Spyro games, the original trilogy, as well as this Reignited Trilogy, etc., etc. So please feel free to share your thoughts and opinions, folks. But again, that does about wrap it up. So just remember, though, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, you be good to yourselves, and sayonara.